Nothing you're about to hear should be taken as or used in place of medical advice. If you resemble anything you hear, contact your doctor. If you want to know what Walgreens thinks, ask them, because we don't know. Please wait behind the line for privacy.
You're listening to the Pharmacist Answers podcast. I'm Cynthia, the pharmacist, and today you'll get your questions answered and your curiosity cured. I had some special requests about certain skin conditions to talk about, so we'll talk about those and then a couple other things. And most of the ones I'm going to go over today are just kind of benign and more of an annoyance rather than like something dangerous. I think I'm going to do like a whole separate topic about skin cancer all in itself. One of the most common issues that we have with our skin, well, two of the most common. One is rash and one is dry skin. Dry skin is usually because your skin does not have enough oil to keep it moisturized and lubricated. Because the oil in your skin actually helps it be waterproof. So waterproof from the environment damaging it, but also waterproof in that the real water in your skin and in your blood and connective tissues doesn't just like evaporate. If that oil gets stripped, whether from soaps or cleansers, or you use chemicals to clean and it strips your hands, then that oil can also be stripped and then it leaves your hands dry. So that's why usually skin moisturizers like lotions and creams are kind of greasy, because they're intended to match with that oil, because oil and water don't mix. That's why the oil on your skin prevents the water from transferring, but also just adding water to your skin isn't going to add moisture. You have to add moisture through an oily vehicle. So that's dry skin. Dry skin can also be exacerbated with a condition called eczema. Eczema is usually hear about kids having eczema, but eczema can affect anybody. And eczema is dry skin that ends up itchy. But instead of it just being like straight up dry skin that you can use a moisturizer on, there's an immune system component to it that adds inflammation. So in the layers of your skin, if for whatever reason the cells of your skin that are still alive, which are in the deeper layers, if they are experiencing some kind of offense or they just have some kind of hyperreaction to something, they will release inflammation chemicals that will either attract immune system cells, so like your white blood cells, to the area, or the chemicals, once they're released outside of the cell, just irritate all the stuff around it, and that's why you get the redness and the swelling in places. So with eczema, there's usually that immune response in the deeper layers that lead to not just the dry skin on top, but then the inflammation and the swelling of the layers underneath. So treatment for eczema usually includes a steroid, because that's going to take out the redness and take out the inflammation and the swelling to try to get those cells to chill out and calm down, since nothing's really bothering them. Eczema, again, usually you hear about like kids getting eczema and their systems are younger and smaller and more sensitive to things, but you can grow out of it. But also, like when I was pregnant, I ended up with eczema during pregnancy. One, because my system was like in overdrive with a lot of other things like hormones and stuff, but also my body was more sensitive to things because of that fragile condition that I was in of growing a human. But then like once the pregnancy was over and like I took care of it, then like I haven't had eczema since. Rashes are another very, very common condition. Rashes have to be one of the most ambiguous things that you can have to try to figure out what's wrong with you. Rashes can come in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes it comes splotchy, sometimes it just comes up as red, sometimes it's raised, sometimes it's not raised, sometimes it's really itchy, sometimes it's painful. And so it's be like, hey, I have a rash. Not gonna help me figure out what's wrong with you. But rashes are typically caused again, by some of those inflammation chemicals that the cells release if they've been offended. So if cells get offended by something inside, whether it's something that you ate and then those particular compounds circulate through your body and offend different areas of your body, or if it's something from the outside, so something got on your skin and happened to soak through, and then it got to those cells and then they got offended by something that soaked into your skin. So two different ways that your body can be offended by stuff, but anything that is going to offend those cells, they're going to release chemicals to try to like make it stop as fast as possible. You know, I would too. So those chemicals and whatever pattern they're released in, or whatever type of chemical it is, may determine what type of rash, what the rash actually looks like. Hives tend to be a specific type of skin rash, and hives are very, very distinct because they're usually raised. We'll have like a really red border, but then like the inside that's like raised up on the plateau will actually be regular skin colored. That makes hives very distinct, and hives involve histamines. So that's why you can take an antihistamine like Benadryl, and it combats those histamines that are being released by the skin, and the hives will go away. Again, hives are one of those things that can be brought on because your skin got offended by something that you ate, and then your body like expels the histamines and causes hives, or something could have touched your skin and got offended, and then hives pop up that way. Somebody had asked me the question about stress-induced hives. And when I went back to work after maternity leave, I had stress-induced hives several times. Essentially, the stress hormones offended part of my body, specifically my skin, and my skin reacted to it. So stress hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, those things, if they get in high amounts in your body or just out of balance, then the body will respond to those things, and my body just happened to respond by causing hives. So I'd wake up 3 o'clock in the morning like hives. So then hives just like make you more stressed out because nobody wants hives, and especially if you can't figure out what they're caused by. Another type of rash, it's called viral exanthem, and this is essentially, I call it an exit rash, because especially in kids, they'll have a virus. You can't do much for a virus other than just like comfort care, be like, you know, we try to take care of runny noses, we try to take care of fevers, all of their yucky blah feelings, you know, you just try to make them feel better while their body fights off the virus. And a lot of viruses, especially in kids, will produce what I call an exit rash, because as the body, like when the fever breaks and the body is like, all right, virus, I got you beat, then the body will just like break out in a rash, and you're going, oh my goodness, my child has spots. And that can be really freaky to parents if you don't know that that can happen with a lot of viruses. Some exit rashes start at their head and then move down their body and out their feet, so it's like it's exiting. Other viruses start on like the torso, and then it moves out. So it'll start on their belly and their back, and then it'll move out their arms and their legs and up their face. So it started at the inside and then just expanded out of their body. But it's called viral exanthem, and it's a rash caused by all kinds of viruses. But it's that kind of sign that's saying, okay, we got this virus beat and we're going to start getting better. And I call it an exit rash because it essentially like exits the body, starts at one place and then like spreads and travels and then like leaves. So that's the way I remember it. So if you've ever had a kid that's had that, or you've had parents or anybody that you come in contact with that's like, oh my goodness, they just broke out in a rash, because doctors and ERs and clinics and stuff will have moms bring their 3-year-olds in and be like, look at this rash, it's head to toe, and they want to do all this stuff for the rash. And it's not histamines. It's not anything like giving Benadryl isn't going to make it go away. Using cortisone might like make the redness of the spots fade a little bit, but you don't want to put cortisone head to toe if you got a head to toe rash. That's a lot of cortisone, especially for anybody, kids or adults. So that's kind of typical. So when you have kids, or if you've had kids and you see that, just know it's normal. It's not hurting them. Very rarely does it hurt or itch or bother them at all. It just looks kind of freaky because they're just like rash head to toe spots. Then I had somebody ask me about acne, and specifically about blackheads. So in your skin, you have different pores. You have, well, I'll call them holes to start with. You have different holes in your skin. Some contain the pores that release your sweat. Some contain the follicles of your hair, where your hair grows out. And then some just contain pores that are for your regular skin oil, which is that natural moisturizer of your skin. Oil not only helps with moisturizing, but it also helps trap up junk that tries to get deeper in your skin to hurt you. So it traps up bacteria that may try to get in because oil is thicker, and so the bacteria gets trapped in it. The oil, it helps trap up dirt, so the dirt doesn't get deeper into your skin to cause injury. So being able to wash your skin gently to remove the oil that has trapped up stuff, but you don't want to remove all the oil because that leads to dry skin, and it can also lead to overproduction because your body freaks out and going, oh, my oil layer is gone, and it just produces all this oil, and then it ends up more oily because it made too much because it freaked out. But with all of the holes in your skin, especially on your face, if that oil or the dirt and the bacteria and even the dead skin cells, because your skin is regularly growing and replenishing itself, and so the dead layers on the top that just get offended by all the stuff we encounter in the environment will shed off and go away. So if the oil and dirt and bacteria and those dead skin cells hang around too long, and they'll end up clogging up those pores. So they can clog up your sweat glands, they can clog up your oil glands, they can clog up your hair follicles. And those are the different places where acne will pop up. So you end up with a zit. If it's a blackhead, if it specifically involves a hair follicle. So even though we don't have a hairy face, we still have tiny hairs on our face because we're mammals. That's how mammals are made. And so blackheads will develop if that oil and dirt and dead skin cells gets trapped inside a hair follicle, because just like hair has a color because of the melanin that's involved in packing the proteins in. So if the melanin that's trying to grow the hair gets clogged up because the oil and dirt and whatever plugged up the hole where it's going to grow out, then you're going to see that melanin, that concentrated melanin inside underneath the layer. And that's why when you look really close at your face in the mirror, you're going to see black spots. Generally, blackheads and even whiteheads in general, just small clogs, aren't painful, even though we don't necessarily like the look of them. They can become painful if the bacteria really starts to fester. If there is truly bacteria involved and it starts to fester, then it can lead to like a swollen zit. And then some people who have like cystic acne, they'll have a larger area of multiple pores or multiple hair follicles all involved in like one big kind of infection, and that's why you end up with like the big cyst that will involve multiple things. So generally acne, like normal face washing, like that keeps your oil balanced, is going to remove the dirt and remove the dead skin cells so it doesn't clog up your pores. Generally your hormones, so you usually get acne starts to pop up during puberty, and it seems to like last forever at this point in my life at least. The oil production in your pores of your skin is regulated by your hormones. So that's why acne pops up when we start puberty, because we have that giant hormone spike. The stress hormones can make acne pop out because it then changes the regulation of the oil production. Pregnancy, either getting pregnant or surviving pregnancy, or then once you're not pregnant and everything starts to rebalance, those are some times where acne can pop up because of the hormones are regulating all of that oil production. And so the more oil and skin cell turnover you have, the more chance you have of those pores getting clogged. So regular washing is important, but make sure you're washing with something that keeps that oil balance, because you don't want to end up with dry skin and you don't want to end up with overproduction. So there's just this happy middle, and it's really hard to like try to stay there. You have the risk of having acne until like your hormones are completely gone. If hormones are responsible for it, and as long as you have hormones, you're gonna have that risk for acne. Also, like working in really dirty environments gives you a bigger dirt exposure for dirt to get into your pores if you don't clean thoroughly and wash regularly. And then 2 types of fungal infections that can get on your skin. Ringworm. The fancy name for ringworm is tinea corpus. So it just means, tinea is just that fungal infection of your body. If that type of fungal infection gets in specific places such as your scalp or on your feet or in the groin area, they have specific names like cradle cap is the cute name for it. Jock itch is the cute name for it, though it doesn't sound real cute. Athlete's foot, that's the name for it, but they're all this tinea fungal infection. Just if they're in specific places, they have specific names. And then tinea corpus is just that fungal infection on any part of your body that's not those 3 places. But ringworm, it's a dry, flaky rash that's in a classic ring. There's no worm involved. It's a fungal infection. Sometimes it can just be caused by an imbalance in your normal skin flora because you have normal yeast, you have normal bacteria that all live on your skin. The bacteria and the yeast, they like kind of keep each other in balance in this tug of war, and everybody stays happy, and then like they can work together. If like a big bad critter comes to try to get you, then they fight together and like make sure that those big critters don't get in your body to make you sick. But if for whatever reason they end up out of balance, then if that fungus, that yeast, if that fungus like overgrows, then you can end up with different types of fungal infections of your skin. One just being like your regular yeast infection, and that's like the candida. If it's on your skin, it's the same like for female yeast infections. It's the same fungus that like grows in your mouth if you get thrush. So the candida doesn't look like ringworm. Ringworm is that classic circle rash that may look plain in the middle if it's big enough, but then the outside is like red and flaky. That's pretty classic to identify if you have ringworm. Sometimes though, that fungal infection can be contagious, especially from like stray cats, stray animals, that kind of thing, because they just have that type of thing on their skin if they're not well cared for. And it can be transferred to your skin. The special type of that tinea fungus, the rash is called, or the skin condition is called tinea vesicolor. And it doesn't have the red flaky on the outside. It takes the pigment out of your skin. For somebody that's pale like me, for my skin to get even more pale than it is now, that could be a sign of tinea vesicolor, and vesicolor giving you the clue that it affects the color of your skin versus it being like the flaky rash. And that's not to be confused with the condition vitiligo, which is actually just the death of your melanocytes. The melanocytes are the cells in your skin layers that produce the color that give you your skin pigment. And for someone who has a lot of melanocytes, so then they have a darker skin color, for those skin cells to start dying off kind of in splotchy places, then you're going to have splotchy discolorment. That is the big thing that like Michael Jackson was famous for, where he was an African-American black little kid and then he like kind of faded into like this weird tan color. It was vitiligo. His melanocytes just stopped reproducing, and then once they died off because they had lived their life out, there wasn't new ones to replace it. So his skin tone lightened throughout his life. The vesicolor, the tinea vesicolor, is not vitiligo, but the skin splotches, at least early on, can look the same. So making sure a doctor can identify which one it is if that is something that pops up. Again, most of these things, not super dangerous. Now, for a rash to be related to an allergic reaction can typically be dangerous. But usually if you have an allergic reaction, you can figure out what it's to if it's super severe. Sometimes if it's just real mild or just real random, it's not going to be anything that's going to be endangering to your life. So if it's something that is prolonged or something that's really affecting your psyche, because I know for a lot of people, really bad acne can be really, really impactful to your psyche of self-esteem and just confidence out in public if you're having to see a lot of people. So anything that is on your skin that bothers you, see a doctor. If you can identify it and know it's not going to be that big a deal and it doesn't bother you, then usually you can treat it on your own or it'll go away. All of these caused by inflammation. Well, I talked about rash Rashes and eczema are generally caused by some type of inflammation process in your skin. Obviously, ringworm is not going to be caused by inflammation. That's a fungal infection. Acne can be some inflammation, but usually only if the skin pores get really infected. There is some inflammation processes involved in that, and thus you usually have to take something or apply something to your skin to make that inflammation process stop and tell those cells in your skin to be like, hey, stop freaking out. For topically, that tends to be a steroid cream of some kind, whether it's over-the-counter cortisone or a prescription from a doctor for a stronger steroid. Usually, inflammation of the skin can be short-lived or can be easily treated by something super easy to apply and something super easy to use, and not a super complex regimen of some kind. Most everything I talked about today are things that are annoying, things that can bother us and make us uncomfortable, but they're not posing an immediate threat to your well-being, just maybe bothering you in your head if you don't know what's going on or what's causing it. I will see y'all on Monday. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Pharmacist Answers podcast. The pharmacy is now closed. You can post your questions and comments on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/pharmanswerspod. Or you can email the show at pharmacistanswershere@gmail.com. You can tweet me or message me on Twitter at @SinHendrix. You can find the show notes at pharmacistanswershere.wordpress.com. Pharmacist Answers broadcasts live on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 9:02 a.m. Eastern Time on the Periscope app. You can follow me at SinHendrix or view in your web browser at periscope.tv/SinHendrix. See you next time on the Pharmacist Answers podcast.